Hi, welcome to my latest video. Today we're going to be fitting a Mantec fuel tank guard to the underside of a Land Rover Freelander 2. It's the 2009 plate Freelander 2 XS 2.2 TD4 diesel, and I'm going to be putting the tank guard underneath the back end to protect the fuel tank so it doesn't get damaged by rocks when going off-road. The fuel tank on the Freelander 2 is made of plastic, so it's particularly vulnerable. Even with good ground clearance it can get damaged, and then you'll end up leaking diesel everywhere. So what we're going to do is work underneath the vehicle and undo various bolts underneath, fit the brackets. The fuel tank guards come with a fixing kit here, a selection of bolts, brackets, and some instructions here, which I'm going to look through and follow on video. So the first thing that we need to do is up underneath the vehicle is find this handbrake cable bracket here. Now there is a small nut, a small bolt there. It's a 10mm socket. It's a little bit fiddly to get to, so the handbrake cable's in the way. That's a 10mm socket, and or you can get a spanner on there. Undo that and remove this bracket, pull this bracket down and unclip it from the cable. Okay, so I've undone the bolt, taken the bolt out. The bracket then pulls out of that grommet on the cable there, and then this captive nut clip needs to also be prized out. Take that off as well. Now on the right hand side I need to do the same again with this bracket on the right hand side handbrake bracket. Loosen off and remove that bolt, and then take this bracket out. A bit fiddly because this one's actually got a little peg on it, sort of stops it from coming out. Slide that one off the cable, and then get a pair of pliers to get this bracket here off this little captive nut thing. Good idea then to have a little bit of a clean up with a little wire brush. You can see there's a bit of corrosion around here. I'm just going to give that a little wire brushing and then apply a bit of Hammerite paint around there just to rust proof it before I fit the brackets for the tank guard. Okay, so what we're going to do now is insert this triangular nut plate. It's a piece of steel plate with a couple of these sort of welded on kind of captive nut things on the back. That goes up behind here. Only the bottom hole here will locate for a bolt. The top hole is really optional. You can drill out if you want to put a bolt into that top plate, but the instructions do say that it isn't required. One bolt is enough on this side. So that plate goes up in there, and then we have this big plate here, which actually, this bracket, which fits on like so, and then on top of that is a new bracket for the handbrake cable, okay, which bolts on as well. So I'm going to assemble that now, and I won't tighten it all up just yet, we'll just assemble it loosely. Okay, so what I've done here is assembled this large bracket with the small handbrake cable bracket and one big M10 bolt going round the back into the lower threaded hole on the nut plate. It's a bit fiddly getting this bolt all the way through, basically through 3 plates including this one into the nut plate behind. You've got to get it all kind of lined up. I've just left it slightly loose for now. It actually really helps to clip this handbrake cable into this bracket first. trying to put that into there after you've fitted all of this is a bit difficult, especially if the handbrake is actually on like it is now. So what I did is just clip that in and then put that bolt through. So it works a lot easier. So that's in there, that's nearly tight. Just left that slightly loose. Right, we're going to do the other side now. Okay, this is the right hand side. Again, I've just assembled that loosely, so there is a triangular nut plate with 2 threaded welded on nuts behind, that goes behind here, up behind here, behind this plate, and then you have this big bracket, and then the handbrake cable bracket. Clip the cable in first, place that there, hold it all together, stick 2 nuts in. The left hand side only had 2 bolts. The left hand side only had 1 bolt lower down. This one has 2, and they go into both of the threaded inserts on the nut plate behind. What we need to do is, working further towards the front, so this is in front of the fuel tank, we need to insert these other nut plates. There's like a long piece of metal with a single threaded weld on nut on it. These go into the little kind of holes here, these little sort of channels on the underside of the car. And you need to push it along until that hole there, the threaded hole, lines up with this hole on the underside of the car body. So that just goes into there like that. And same on the other side. Make sure you get it the right way around, so you want the nut facing upwards. Okay. Push it along. It's a bit fiddly. So kind of slowly push that in until that is in the right place. These are basically just reinforcing plates to give you something to thread into when the tank guard kind of bolts up to the underside. Okay, so we're now ready to actually offer up the tank guard underneath, slowly raise it up and put the bolts into there, and also bolt the rear of the tank guard up into these brackets, and then tighten everything else up. I won't tighten everything fully until the bracket is actually, until the tank guard's actually attached to the brackets, and then we can tighten up these other bolts up behind here. Okay, so what I've done now is just use the trolley jack just to raise the tank guard roughly in position, and just insert these bolts with the nuts up on top there. Just putting them on loosely for now, and we do the same on the other side, and then the same with the two big M10 bolts at the front. These are stainless steel ones that I've decided to fit instead, just to avoid them rusting and seizing. So these ones I'm putting in with the nut on top, just to avoid the thread getting damaged and rusty by anything that sort of scrapes along the underside of the car. Right, let's get the other bolts in loosely, and then the jack can be removed. What I've done is inserted the 2 front bolts first, just put them in loosely, very loosely. It was a little bit difficult getting holes lined up. If you put the rear bolts into the brackets first, then the front bolts don't seem to line up. So put the with the jack underneath holding the weight of the tank guard, I've put in the 2 front bolts very loosely, and then come up to the back and just put these in really loose as well. Still got one to go, and now I've removed the jack out from underneath. I've just got to put that 1 bolt in there with the nut above, nut up above the bracket. Push that up there. and then I can tighten everything up. Okay, so I've tightened up these bolts, tightened up the bolts up the front. There's 2 up the front there. Tightened up these 4 with the nuts above. And now lastly I'm tightening up these ones here. Tighten up both of these. And the one on the other side. Okay, everything's now tightened up nicely. All the bolts, these bolts. One thing I've noticed here, this handbrake cable here has a nice bit of clearance behind it. It's nicely into that little bracket. There's a decent gap between the actual cable and the piece of the sharp edge of the metal there. This side though, not quite as good. This bracket is fitted exactly as per the instructions. The cable doesn't want to sit in there properly because it's rubbing against the edge of the metal. Something isn't quite right there. I don't know if I've assembled it wrong, or whether whether or not the bracket's sort of been bent or made incorrectly, but with that, I'm not too happy with that handbrake cable actually rubbing against the edge of that metal there. You can see that's interfering there and stopping that from sitting fully in. I've tried loosening the bolt here and rotating that a little bit, but it just doesn't seem, I can't seem to find a position where everything locates properly in there with a gap between there and the metal. So what I might do at some point is take that off and just perhaps bend it a little bit so that this cable pulls away a little bit away from that metal, or possibly even grind a little cut out on here to stop that interfering. But apart from that, the tank guard is on. It's all fitted quite nicely. There's, you can just about see in there. I don't know if you can see in there, but the bottom of the tank guard fits pretty tightly up against the underside of the fuel tanks. Just reach down in, reach up in there. Yeah, that's pretty closely up underneath the tanks there, so you will lose a bit of ground clearance, but I reckon probably about 10 millimeters we've lost by fitting this, but the benefits of having this underbody protection here under the fuel tank outweigh any loss of ground clearance at all, so well worth fitting. Okay, great, thank you for watching, hope that was useful.